Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third Mutual Meet the Candidates Forum. I'm Steve Parsons, president of Third Mutual, and I'd like to make an important clarification. On Tuesday this week, when I appeared on TV6's This Day program, I reflected upon my past year as president and commented on the rumors and misinformation directed at the third board and at me personally. I also made a statement related to this year's election that might have been construed by some as candidate endorsement. Today, I wish to apologize to any viewers or third members who perceived my comments and appearance as an attempt to sway public opinion in regard to the 2021 election. Please understand that that was not my intent. I want to stress, my comments were my opinion only, not the opinions of the third board directors. I welcome without reservation all mutual members who are willing to and able to step forward as a candidate to potentially serve our community in one of the most challenging of roles. Today, I was slated to serve as the forum mediator. However, I have chosen to step aside. Instead, Board Treasurer Robert Mutchnick will act as your moderator. Thank you for listening, and thank you for viewing today's Meet the Candidates Forum.
All of you will consider becoming involved with the governance of the mutual. Thank you. Serving on the many committees and work groups that do much of the heavy lifting is an equally good way to impact the success of the mutual. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. If you've watched any of the previous forums of this type, candidate forums, you're probably familiar with the standard structure that's been used as the format. However, this time we're changing the format. Let me share with you what the format will be. First thing is I will introduce each of the candidates. After I introduce each of the candidates, we'll then allow each candidate 2 minutes to do an opening statement. After they've completed their opening statements, we will begin with rounds of questions. Vice President McCary will go around and allow each candidate to select a random question from the 26 questions that have been prepared. And they will then read the number of the question, they will read the question out loud, and they will have, from the time they start reading the number to answer the question, they will have a total of 2 minutes. There is a countdown clock that is on the podium in front of them that all the candidates are able to see, and it'll start at 2 minutes and count down for them. And hopefully they'll just watch the clock as well as when they're speaking so that we don't have to interrupt them. We will go as many rounds as possible. After we complete the number of rounds that everybody has an equal opportunity to participate in, we will then move to closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. Are there any questions from the candidates at this moment? Okay. I will now introduce the candidates in alphabetical order. Starting on the left is Mr. Jim Cook. Jim, welcome. Lynn Jarrett, welcome. Reza Karimi, welcome. Mark Laws, welcome. Nathaniel Lewis, welcome. And Karen Shore, welcome to you. Jim, we'd like to start with you for the first 2 minutes, and then we'll proceed through everybody else for their 2-minute statement. So, sir, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, I'm Jim Cook. I've been a resident here for 15 years. Some of my background is my education. I have a Juris Doctorate degree in law, a bachelor's degree in biology, AS degrees in plant science technology, fire science technology, and residential construction development. I've also taken coursework in public relations, and that is, sorry. My background is I was a city councilman in the city of Azusa for 4.5 years. There I served on the budget negotiations, the union negotiations, and represented them back at Moody's on Wall Street when we did bond rating presentations. I also defended the 1920 Water Powers Act by lobbying back in Washington, D.C. I have a 31-year time as a general contractor in the state of California. I retired 13 years ago, but I still maintain my license. I have served 29 years for LA County Fire Department, 20 years as a reserve sheriff with the LA County Sheriff's Department, numerous other volunteer organizations. I have recently, when I was in Hawaii, worked with the Oahu, boy, I'm struggling today. We're running out of time here, so.
All right, thank you, Jim. We'll move on now to Lynn Jarrett. Lynn, you also have 2 minutes, please.
Good morning, all. I want to say this is my 12th year of community service in Laguna Woods, including the last 3 on third board. I have enjoyed working toward the betterment of the community so much that I'm back again asking you to allow me to serve yet another term on third. A cohesive board, one that I want to continue working with on common goals to meet the needs of the residents. I chair some committees and learn so much about the governing documents. The trust, the CCNRs, the bylaws, the management agreement, Davis Sterling, our law, the Book of California Laws, Robert's Rules of Order. So we all have to know a lot to be on the board, and I've really learned a lot this past year. My experience as committee chairs has proved to be invaluable. Chairing the committee that makes policy is challenging and oftentimes forces one to research governing documents and work with legal to ensure that no stone goes unturned, especially anything to do with Davis Sterling. My experience as chair of landscape has its rewards by collaborating with an excellent group of board members and staff and working towards solutions to meet the needs of the community, a daunting task with the never enough funding and employees in the field. Being chair of the rec room subcommittee has been a pleasant task, except during the periods of the pandemic when we had to close the rec rooms to prevent the spread of the COVID virus. All in all, it's been a wonderful experience to serve on third board, an experience I want to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn Jarrett. Next up is Reza Karimi. Sir, you have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Reza Karimi. I'm 6 years resident in Laguna Woods Village. Education-wise, I have BS in chemistry, Master of Science in Analytical Chemistry, Master of Science in Petroleum, and PhD in Chemistry with emphasis nuclear chemistry. I have over 30 years of scientific and executive management experience in commercial and government agency. I have overseen and participated in development and implementation of streamlining organizational structures and procedure designed to increase efficiency and productivity of the commercial and government operation. I have directed and managed several multi-million dollars and multidisciplinary projects for DOD, DOE, and EPA, and other governmental agencies and other clients. I have publication in scientific journals and presentation in national and international conferences. The last company that I worked, Battelle Memorial Institute, 2008 to 2017, I was vice president and senior site manager at Tuala Chemical Depot, Aniston Chemical Depot, and Pueblo Chemical Depot, destroying chemical warfare. I directed it for the more than 400 chemists, scientific and scientists and technicians to perform monitoring and analytical testing for the Tuala Chemical Depot and other depots. I was the director at Southwest Research Institute for the Analytical and Environmental Chemistry. My previous civic duties, I was federally appointed by the White House to serve 3 full term, 2005 to 2014, on the EPA's Science Advisory Board, ELAB, on laboratory issues. I was past board member of International Association of Environmental Testing Laboratories, past board member of Batal International Operation, member of American Society of Military Engineers, longest-standing member of American Chemical Society, and I was recipient in 2012 of a Safety Award, Individual Achievement in Safety, in highest safety award in the state of Utah. My current activities.
Reza, thank you. That's the 2 minutes. Thank you, sir. Mark Laws, next 2 minutes are yours.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Mark Laws. With the third mutual monthly assessment increase of $93 per month starting next year, I believe that existing and potential owners are getting priced out of our community, and that is causing our property values to drop. Because I think that I can help improve the situation for our homeowners, I felt compelled to run for the board. During my 40-plus year career in information technology in Silicon Valley, I was known as a problem solver, someone my management could assign difficult tasks to ensure that they got done successfully. Most notably, eliminating redundancies and inefficiencies to reduce costs and increase productivity. I'm very analytical, and I dig into details of situations to find creative solutions to issues. My goal as a board member would be to work to maintain existing services and amenities for our community without further increases to our monthly assessments. How would I work to meet that goal? Well, here's a few things that I would do. While I understand that the board does not manage the staff or operations, there are many committees that the board's members sit on where operational activities are discussed. I'll be asking questions and offering suggestions to push operations and the teams to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and customer service. A key role of the board is also to approve the budget requested of them by VMS. During the approval process, I'll look into the details, ask lots of questions to make sure that I and the other directors understand the ask. I also plan to vote no on any decision that comes before the board that increases costs if there's no corresponding savings or additional revenue identified elsewhere to offset the proposed increase. Along with these actions, I'll do what I can to help ensure that the community knows what's going on, why, and has potential prior input into key decisions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Nathaniel Lewis. Sir, you have 2 minutes.
Good morning. As a candidate for the third board of directors, my background consists of...
Mike?
Oh, sorry. There we go. Good morning. As a candidate for the third board of directors, my background consists of many decades of business experience and participation on HOA boards. This makes me well suited for this position. I started a jewelry firm in the early 70s and was successful for 38 years until I retired. At the same time, I participated on 2 HOA boards that solved problems in a changing world. We made modifications that solved many of the pitfalls of an aging common interest development community. I was president of the Sunset Ridge Maintenance Association for 36 years and president of the Turtle Rock Ridge Homeowners Association for 2 years, as well as vice president for 9 years. During this time, through long-term planning, along with asset updates and upgrades, I was able to reduce our liability insurance costs. I lowered our reserve requirements with infrastructure improvements, and I worked with vendors to choose plantings to reduce labor costs and modernize the irrigation systems. This decreased water usage and maintenance costs at the same time. Savings from these and other innovations directly impacted our insurance liability premiums, lowered reserve requirements, and brought down landscape costs to cope with inflationary increases. These changes also reduced rodent populations. Many of Third Mutual's expenditures over the last 4 years have increased significantly. Legal fees and cost of water alone caused hundreds of thousands of dollars of these increases. I believe with my experience, I will be an asset to the Third Mutual board to help solve this economic crisis and bring increased transparency to board issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Karen Shore. You have 2 minutes too, please.
I'm Karen Shore, the only independent new candidate running for Third Board. I want Third Board Mutual to return to the purposes of our bylaws, that is, to manage, operate, and maintain our housing in accordance with our CC&Rs and the law. Our bylaws are not just suggestions, they are mandates which must be followed to effectively manage this community and prevent lawsuits. We must protect the appearance of our buildings and landscape to uphold our property values. My candidacy has strong support in our community based on my regular involvement with Third Mutual and with residents. As a founding member of Village Voices of Laguna Woods, I helped organize community efforts to stop directors from passing new rules and policies in violation of our bylaws. Recently, Third Board passed the unnecessary social media policy, which censors directors. This policy bans directors and future directors from the use of social media, such as Nextdoor. It censors communication between directors and residents. Member comments submitted opposed this, yet this board voted for it. This social media policy must be reversed. Last year, they passed the so-called emergency rule during closed session that shut down facilities and services for far too long. This should never happen again. We must do better. I want to create a business continuity plan so in the event of a true emergency, residents will know that never again will we lack vital services. Being shut out of gyms and other facilities for over a year hurt many of us. I will oppose any new rules or policies that are outside our bylaws. Directors must discuss our business in public, not in the back room. My duty as director will be to act solely for your benefit, not my own interests. I look forward to answering your questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move to the portion of the forum where candidates will each answer individual questions. These questions were all prepared by members of Third Mutual as well as the board. Annie, if you would allow Mr. Cook to please select the first question. Mr. Cook, you have 2 minutes. Please read the number and the question.
Number 15, what examples of transparency for committee and board meetings do you propose other than those already used by Third Board? Well, as far as I can see, it seems like the community just isn't getting enough information. My thought would be that we could make it to where we actually have more forums where people can participate and ask questions. I think limiting the citizen input really defeats the purpose. You could limit the times, which I think you have in a certain way, but there's always got to be some time for recourse after the questions are answered or taken upon by the board or any personnel that are answering those such things. I would actually want to see that all board members have a business email where questions can be posted to them from the community, and that all those questions, maybe it could go to all of the board members so that nobody is blindsided, everybody knows what the community is saying, and just be more open to input from the community at large. I found that my trouble with alterations was what put me on the path to try to become a member of the board. And in communicating with the community, almost everybody had an alteration story to tell me. And that really needs to be addressed in a forum where you can contact board members. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Lynn Jarrett. Please select a question.
My question, unbelievably, is this. What sources do you access to be an informed resident in Third Mutual? Well, I just showed you my sources. The Blue Book, the 2021 Davis Sterling book, is one of my sources. And I keep handy the bylaws, the trust agreement, the CC&Rs, the management agreement. Another one is we have the business planning book that the board members really use this as a reference all year long for our budget. So all our financial data is in here. And it's actually on the website for anybody to see. So there's no secret about that. And another source I have is to keep when, not only committee chairs, but all board members need to know Robert's Rules of Order because that's what we use is Robert's Rules. Other sources, I have, well, you make friends on the other boards, you make friends with staff, and you always, and I'm not saying friends, but with staff, but you make business relationships, and that's what it's all about. You build these business relationships, but other sources is my members of the community. The members of the community are a vast, vast resource for all of us because we always get questions from the community. My email and my phone number is public so that people can always have access to me. So we have a lot of resources, and that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Karimi. Please read the number.
Number 18. It's number 18. Currently, third mutual policy allows for a maximum 30% of the manure to be leased. What is your position on lowering, raising, or maintaining this percentage, and why? When I look at this community, when I bought unit here, I was buying in the 55-plus active community that I was looking to be all owners because the owners take care of the facility. I have no issues with some percentage of the community to be rental. But when you have too many renters, then you deal with the issue of apathy that we saw when we did the voting for the CCNR and all of that. Because if the owner doesn't live in the community, their interest in the community is not as strong as people that live there day by day and look at the areas. I would like to maintain or lower the percentage of the rental in order to bring the pride of ownership to our community so we can take care of our community in a better way. That's why I think that we should lower the percentage from 30 to maximum allowable of 25% by the law, because that's the maximum allowable or minimum allowable. But you can go to 40% if you want to, but I think that the more renters, the less taking care of the community. The pride of ownership is extremely important, and that's why I look at it that way.
Thank you. Next up, Mark Laws. Please select the question. Read the number, please.
Hello, question number 12. If the third board voted to approve a policy with which you personally disagreed, how would you see your role as a third board member as it relates to that policy? I understand that the board speaks with one voice and that there will be situations where the board might vote contrary to what I believe they should vote. But after that vote is done, my job would be to support that decision 100%, not to go outside and talk to my friends and moan about how a poor decision was made or anything like that. So, and if I still felt strongly that I was right, it'd be my job as a board member to continue to work within the board during board meetings and committees to change their minds and see what I could do with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, please read the number.
Number 6, do you believe the Third Mutual is depositing enough money monthly from HOA fees into the contingency fund? And please explain your answer. Well, I'm not exactly sure of the percentage. Generally speaking, in most HOAs, it's 2 to 3%. If we are having more infrastructure problems that are of a surprise nature, like water leaks and so on, there's something wrong. If you have to put 10% or even more than 2 or 3 generally into a contingency fund, then there's something wrong with another part of your budget. You're not maintaining the way you should, because most insurance problems that we have, most repairs we have are water related, either water from landscaping or water pipe breaks or leaks. That's true with almost every association, every home that there is. So you need a program to identify these other problems if you're having pressure and you're running out of money in your contingency fund. I have not been gone back 10 years in the budget to check the contingency fund, but this is my general feeling. You need to adjust the part of the budget that's causing you to go into the contingency fund more. And if you're not having to use the contingency fund, then you're doing things right. You're anticipating all the problems, or most, that you can possibly. And that's an important thing. So it's something to be adjusted always with the circumstances that arise. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shore, please select the question, read the number and the question.
What contributions, other than now being a candidate for third board, have you made to the mutual, either as a committee advisor or in any other capacity, to demonstrate your commitment to the village? As a resident, as a member, I bring member comments to Third Mutual. And most recently, one I feel very passionately about is that we need to pass a resolution so that all open meetings are recorded, and that all recorded meetings should be archived for residents to be able to view at their leisure later. This will be the best open transparency that we could have in this community. And I happen to know one third member who does not want us even using Zoom. I think Zoom has added so much to this community. It's probably one of the biggest breakthroughs for HOA board meetings, speaking to residents, that there has been. I want to use the rest of my time to talk about some other issues that have come up, particularly about the reserves. Our reserves, the last I saw, were at 36% funded of the 100% that the professional study fund company that we hire recommended. It may be up to 54%. I've seen both numbers. Actually, 76% is the recommended amount that should be in a well-funded reserve for our maintenance of our buildings. And talking Third Mutual, it's our buildings. So this should never, we should never run out of funds. We should be planning well ahead so that that never happens, and that we do keep up on our buildings, because it's the number one job of this board is to follow the bylaws and maintain our buildings. Business relationships, just very quickly, should not be friendships. I might have been a slip of tongue earlier. That has been a problem in this community. People have too close relationships with the VMS staff, and they need to have it with members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cook, you're next. I'm going to go around again for round two. Please read the number, folks.
Question number 17. What do you believe the third board position should be on granting members private control of current common areas? My opinion is that common areas, again, they're referred to exclusive use common areas and other common areas. As far as the main common areas, no, I don't think they should have private control. But the areas where it's exclusive use, where nobody's going to be walking into your patio, nobody's going to be walking into your storage closet that's part of the structural integrity of your building, those areas should just have a rubber stamp. And the variance process, from what I've seen, and what I've seen through the architectural committee and the board, it seems like, and even with the alterations, when I had a couple things that I needed to do on my property where they were structural, well, those are considered variances. And in my mind, I cannot conceive why a structural item is a variance when you have a structural engineer that takes care of that, whereas a board member, as a general rule, is not a structural engineer. So alterations almost appeared as though they were saying, yeah, you can apply, I think it was $150 for a variance, but basically, we're going to advise the committee to deny, then the committee's going to deny it, and 3 members of that committee are on the board, and then it goes to the board on appeal, and so you've already got 3 strikes against you before you walk in the door. My attitude is anything that improves the properties and doesn't affect your other neighbors should be allowed.
Thank you. Ms. Jarrett.
Number 20, self-insuring is not an option for Third Mutual. Therefore, other than self-insurance, what suggestions do you have to reduce the annual cost of our property insurance moving forward? Well, one of the things we need to do is we need to get the CC&Rs amended. It's really, really important. I don't know how we're going to do that with the apathy in the community, but it's really imperative. What suggestions do I have to reduce the annual cost? Well, we're just going to have to continue insuring as much insurance. We have to buy as much insurance as possible. I'm just kind of at a loss here because I know we cannot reduce our property insurance without changing the CC&Rs. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Karimi.
Number 23. In light of significant minimum wage increase, utility and insurance costs over the last 4 years, how would you have mitigated or avoided HOA fee increase? Folks, the fact of life is even the government give everyone under Social Security cost of living adjustment, 2 to 4%. The cost will increase over a period of time. The issue is how we're going to manage our operation with the increase in the costs. Right now, the mutuals are facing several major issues. The cost of insurance, the cost of labor, the cost of utility, water, electricity, and those issues going to be with us. They're not going to go away. Especially coming out of the pandemic, these costs are much higher than regular inflationary numbers. We are more than 3 to 4% on the year average, and we have to look at how we're going to improve efficiency and productivity within the operation in order to maintain the services at a reasonable cost. I'm not going to blow the smoke here and say I'm going to cut the cost. We have to provide services. We have to maintain our services. We have to have a representative community, and it have costs, but we can improve efficiency, productivity in order to manage our affairs better and provide the services to our clients, which is our member.
Thank you. Mr. Laws.
Question number 24. What third committees would best fit your credentials and why? First of all, to be honest, I don't think I know what all the committees are. Right? And I think I'm not unlike a lot of other homeowners that don't know what all the committees are. I tried this morning searching for committees on our website, and it came up with 3,000 links, and so I kind of got confused. But I do believe there's an information technology one, so I have a strong information technology background. I do believe that some information technology systems are being looked at to be revamped within the community, so I would like to fit on that one. I believe I'm a problem solver. I'd love to sit on any one, probably the one that no one else wants to sit on, that's the one I want to sit on, because I think no matter which committee I'm on, I would improve it, improve the activities behind it, and improve things for our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Number 19, other than replacing our current attorney, what can be done to reduce our legal bills? Well, it's my understanding that the attorney has been sitting in on many, many meetings, giving advice on Davis Sterling and answering questions that could be answered by someone else well-versed in Davis Sterling, a paralegal, perhaps, or just a VMS staff member that would have that type of knowledge outside the village. The individual that provides significant input with regards to Davis Sterling is the account manager. And someone like that is well-versed in law, current law, with regards to HOAs, would be a far less costly individual. $100 an hour versus $500 an hour. And generally speaking, the members of the board should be fairly well versed in Davis Sterling. This is what we're asked to be. And the only time you really need legal counsel is when you run into a roadblock, something in a gray area. And then you would contact this first person that wouldn't be as costly and probably get the answer you need. And if not, if it was that technical and that intricate, you would have to go to a lawyer. But this is an easy way. You don't have the lawyer sit in at your meetings just as you would. You only contact the lawyer when you definitely have to. And this is a big thing because it's my understanding that legal counsel's been at almost every meeting the last couple of years.
Ms. Shore, you're next. Please read the question and the number.
Number 26, many members in third have created and maintained their own plantings around their manors, thereby using lots of additional potable water. As a board member, how do you propose to balance our water costs, which are likely to exceed $4 million, with the interests of those members who want to keep their plantings? Well, definitely, we want to encourage less water-needing plants, that's for sure, and talking to them individually, they would probably come around to it in time because more of their neighbors will be doing this. But I think a bigger issue with the water expenditures is the amount of waste that's happening in the community now. Often, we have reports of water running down the streets repeatedly. This takes a lot of oversight by the landscape who watches the water, the irrigation systems. They need to make sure they are in top condition and avoid those costly expenses, which will help address this crisis that we have looming on us. Since I have another minute, I want to talk about the legal bills. I think just working inside our bylaws will go a long way to preventing litigation against this community. We've seen one case this last year that should not have happened. I think also, as far as the board talking to each other, we need to trust our business judgment, and it will go a long way towards saying, well, I don't know, and then you have to get the attorney. Committees I'd like to work on, I'd like to be on the Finance Committee. I think we need more work done with our financial statements. I think it's important to have financial statements that the residents, members actually understand. If the members can understand it, then every one of the board members should be able to understand it. So Finance Committee would be my first guess, and not guess, preference. And then I'd also like to throw my hat in the ring to be the treasurer on this board. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cook, we'll start round 3, please.
Question 14. Does Third Mutual have any oversight of GRF? Explain why or why not. Well, the Third Mutual has 3 members on GRF. So by having 3 members, you have influence. If you have strong members on GRF, you'll have a stronger influence. I don't know how to answer it any differently than that, because that basically is the power for Third. And if Third sets policy, then Third's membership on GRF should go in and highly support that policy and try and influence GRF as best as possible. Also, Third needs to work with United and the towers, because they all also have representation on GRF. So you have to work as a group, within a group, to accomplish anything. We can't have infighting between United and Third and the towers and GRF. We have to work together because we're all working for the same thing. We're working to make the community better. We're working to keep the community strong. And we're working as a group. You know, we're just one cog in the machine being on Third Mutual, and we have to work together with the other cogs. So cooperation and working together is the solution to a lot of the problems. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jarrett?
Number 25, do you believe that parts of the community are old, poorly maintained, and contain architectural and landscape eyesores? If so, what would you do if elected to eliminate the eyesore and prevent future eyesores? Well, as you know, I'm on the chair of the landscape committee, so we see a lot of eyesores out there. Basically, we have a smaller budget right now than we had in 2014 on landscaping. And at 2014, they had 182 employees. I just recently looked this up. They had 182 employees, and we have 146. So that's pretty significant, with the kind of around the same amount of money to work with as we did 7 years ago. What we're doing in landscape is what needs to be done is we're replacing, for the 6 months of the year, we replace old plants because they are really eyesores. And we're looking at replacing a lot of the grass. The grass becomes eyesores because it can't be really nice during the whole year. So we are in an effort to save water. We're trying to replace grass with nice drought-tolerant plants. So it's also, we save on maintenance that way. So that's what we're doing to prevent future eyesores, is to get rid of a lot of the grass and a lot of the old plants. And I can't tell you how much. Well, as far as architectural is concerned, it's the same thing. The architecture committee, they work hand in hand with landscaping on some of the issues that we have before us. Thank you.
Number 13, what, if any, are the differences in information and issues discussed in an open session versus that of closed session of the third board? Please explain. Well, there are two. Anybody that participated in any of board meeting, you have two separate meetings, open meetings and a closed meeting. During the open meeting, all the decisions regarding different committee that bring in resolution are discussed and open, and then the decision are made. Closed meetings are related to the personnel issue and legal issues that are not allowed to be discussed in an open forum, because those issues are confidential. That's the difference between those two meetings. There is nothing happening in the closed-door meeting that impact their resolution that we make in an open door. But those discussions cannot be an open because the names are used, the people are used, the personal issue are discussed, and those are not an open items for the discussion. And that's what the difference are. And that's how it should be for any board that I was member of. We had the closed door and we had open. And the closed door are issues that legally you cannot put it on the, on the platform and everyone look at it. That's the differences.
Thank you. Mr. Laws?
Question number 9. During the past year, there have been considerable attention in the village related to COVID. What role, if any, should the third board play in determining the opening of amenities and the wearing of masks? So I'm struggling with what third board should be responsible. I think people should wear masks indoors. I do. I think it helps protect them and others. I think we should follow the CDC, state, local guidelines with regards to what we should do. I would personally like to think that the third board shouldn't have a whole lot to do with it. That they should kind of step away and let the government handle the situation as far as what is suggested and what is required. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lewis?
Number 8, what item or items in the third 2022 budget concern you the most and why? One of them is our extreme use of our increase in water bills. This is a big problem that should have been addressed a long time ago, as it has by other communities. One of my pet peeves happened last night. We had rain, and then we had irrigation between the rain. This should never happen. We need to modernize our controllers to adjust for this. Most other cities have done this. Most other associations have done this. So when it rains, they go off automatically. And they don't come on for 3 days, depending on how much rain that occurs. And this is measured by rainfall and how you program your controllers with what type of plant material you have. So everything is all dialed in by you. And rain and irrigation together should never happen. We don't have, so that is a big part of it. The legal fees are another. They've been going up dramatically every year. And the overages from, let's say, 2016 to now have been somewhere in the vicinity of 1.62 million, over and above the average that we started with, which is 110,000, if you use that as a baseline, because they've doubled year after year, almost doubled in some years, continually, and that's a big problem. Those two are two big budget items that I see are a problem that need to be addressed, and with the water, which is going to go up significantly next year, I see it as a need.
Thank you.
Okay.
Number 4, explain the differences between reserves and contingency funds and how these accounts are funded. Well, we learned from the budget meetings we had recently that the reserves get allocated, X amount. I can't say exactly the percentage of them, and you mentioned 2 to 3%, maybe that's it. But we have reserve funds in our budget. I don't see that we have a specific contingency funds. In our budget, what we have are our operating expenses, we have our reserve funds, and then we have a disaster fund. If this contingency funds actually means the disaster funds, we know that that is being paid back by this board because we actually did borrow from it, which is very reasonable, and maybe we really don't need to be giving that back because that was kind of an emergency situation. That's my answer for number 4. But I want to just jump over to, since I have a little more time left, a minute, I just want to talk about the biggest problem we actually have on the budget, which I find is the insurance at $8 million a year. This is unbelievable that our community is spending $8 million a year for insurance, whether we use it or not. Our number 1 item on the budget is employee compensation. There's not a lot we can do with that. We do need our employees in VMS, but this insurance is way too much. And then the next one, of course, is utilities, which we've talked about as well. There's much that we need to do regarding this insurance. There's a lot that I don't know, not having been on the board. I don't know what the attorneys have said, what the attorney has said in writing. If we've gotten another attorney opinion on what our current CC&Rs read, some members of our community believe that the CC&Rs, the way they read right now, gives the board the ability to make the decisions we don't need an amendment.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, we'll start round 4. I think we have enough time left for round 4. This will be our final round.
Number 2, identify a specific issue that came to a vote in a recent third board meeting that you attended and tell us how you would have voted and why. Well, I didn't attend the meeting, but it just comes back to the other issue of variances where the board voted no. And I don't know who is influencing the board or suggesting that variances shouldn't be allowed, but in the historic realm of this community, variances were issued to exclusive use common areas based on the fact of whether or not there was any community or neighborhood or neighbors' complaints against it. And even sometimes then, if there were complaints, if it wasn't of a significant nature, the board would still allow the variances. And when we talk about variances, maybe I should explain a little bit. We're talking about if somebody wants to put a new window in, if somebody wants to enclose their patio area, if somebody wants to install a half bath or a full bath in the interior of the walls of your structure, but even some of the interior of your structure is defined as exclusive use common area. And maybe that definition needs to be changed a bit. And maybe it needs to be more open, because anything that's done to improve the appearance of this community by people spending their own money is a benefit, and it's an asset. And I think that should be encouraged, not discouraged. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jarrett.
Number 10, what GRF committees would best fit your credentials and interests? Well, it just so happens that I am on the GRF ITAC committee because I worked in technology most of my career. And another committee that I serve on GRF is the Media and Communication Committee. And I worked in publishing and IT for many years, and was a writer, a columnist. So that kind of fits my need for media and communication. Other than that, I really enjoy watching the committees meetings that they have, like the CAC meeting, the strategic planning meeting, all the committee, but they haven't met just recently, but they're getting ready to rev that up a bit. And business planning, that's up my alley. So there's several committees that would fit my credentials, but presently I'm on a few of them, and I'm best fit for those committees. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Karimi.
Number 11, how do you interpret the term fiduciary responsibility as it applied to being a member of third board? As a member of third board, we are entrusted to use the money that is, given to us by the members in a responsible and right way, and use it to perform the duties of the, VMS and, make sure that those money are used properly and effectively. And the services that provided is, in comparison to the cost, is reasonable. Those are the fiduciary responsibility that a board member has toward the membership. That means you are entrusted with the financial side of these, these activities, and you have to act that way. No personal interest, no agenda, no preconceived notion of how to do it. You just have to be open and clear about the financial use and financial spending of the money that community entrusted you with. Those are the fiduciary responsibility of the board members.
Mr. Laws.
Thank you. Question 16, with almost all costs for Third Mutual continuing to rise each year, as a board member, what specific ideas do you propose to control costs? Well, that's kind of why I'm running. The main ideas, I think, is really to work as much as possible in the ways that we can. Again, I know that the board doesn't manage the operations teams, but the operations team needs to be looked at to ensure that they're as efficient as possible and or don't have a lot of waste. Some examples that I've heard of the inefficiencies as I've been walking around campaigning. Somebody needed their door painted. The painters came and put on a coat of paint and then went and sat in their truck for 2 or 3 hours while the paint dried enough for them to put on a second coat. That seems to me to be a bit inefficient use of those painters' time. I think, as previous people have mentioned, there's things in water drip system plants that different plants that require less maintenance, require less water, drip systems that would use less water. Those are some things that could also happen. I'm still trying to figure out now what the Gate Ambassador in Gate 12 does. So maybe one way of saving costs, not necessarily for third, but is try to figure out what that person does and reallocate them elsewhere. Thank you.
Number 22, what are the critical circumstances driving our insurance cost and increases? Well, there are a lot of things that are driving up our insurance costs. The reassessment of the community and with the worldwide situation, it's not, when they reassess a community, it isn't just your community. They look at, everything is worldwide now. Every insurer's got their fingers and toes in every part of the world, the major insurers that we use. And that's a big part of it. When there's floods in the south and there's hurricanes and damage that the insurers have to pay off, we end up paying for part of that. That's just a fact of life. I don't know when the previous reevaluation of our community was, but this is a substantial increase. And I hope that going out to perhaps a different broker or brokers for more competitive bids, perhaps we don't have the right broker that's working for us. I don't know. But some get more consideration from reinsurers than others. And there are different insurance strategies to be used within the going out to brokers. So once you've, let's say, grabbed 3 reinsurers, the other brokers can't use them and need to go find some others for you. It's a whole crazy business in its own. We need to do the best we can to reduce our fire risk, That's changing our landscape. That's when we repair buildings that had wood, and which has been done that you don't use wood any longer. You use hardy boards. So basically, it's fiber-backed cement board. It doesn't burn, helps your reserves, and so on. The insurance companies love it.
Thank you. Ms. Shore, final question.
Number 7, identify a current specific policy within Third Mutual that you would change and why. Well, I think I addressed this a little bit in my intro, and that would be the social media policy. That policy was strongly opposed to by dozens of members that have come to third board meeting in the springtime, and more people than I've seen at any meeting in the past 15 months. And yet, by far, everyone was opposed to this. They just felt it was unnecessary. Social media is something you want to participate in or not. Trying to get my candidacy out there, I use it. For the most part, I stay the heck away from it because it's uncontrolled. People could say whatever they want, and maybe you've experienced some things here recently with the board, and you know about what I'm talking about. So we don't have to use it, but we don't have to be censored either. So I think that was unnecessary. United voted on it. They decided not to have that in their mutual, and I thought that was much smarter, and it probably came from Third and went to United. I don't know, but I think that's wrong. So that I would work to change it. And having been in Robert's Rules, I know I can make a motion and bring things back for discussion later. And I know I'm not supposed to talk about things that have been passed, but I do not have to support them either. So let's see, I have just a few seconds left. I just want to put a little extra discussion in the financial statements. I want them a little bit different, but I also want to have VMS financial experts present our financial statements on a monthly basis. I think it will be much more pertinent. They did such an excellent job at the budgets, helping people, helping the members to explain, answering questions.
Okay, thank you. All righty, that concludes our 4 rounds of questions. We weren't sure we would necessarily get to all of them, but thank you for the brevity of some of your answers, so it allowed us to do that. At this point in time, we will allow a 1-minute closing statement from each person, and we're going to go in reverse order. So we'll allow Ms. Shore to go first, and Mr. Cook, you'll bring up the rear in terms of this issue.
Is
So, Ms. Shore.
VMS doing an excellent job for you? Are you satisfied with their performance? Your answer tells just how good a job our CEO, Jeff Parker, is doing. Mr. Parker has had no HOA experience before coming to run one of the largest HOAs in the nation. We fired PCM for not meeting expectations. Instead of hiring another management company, the decision was made to create an HOA-owned management company. Do we know if VMS is doing quality work? No, we do not, because no one talks about it. But the VMS board knows, and third directors better know. We should all be told how well VMS is performing. I will work to make reports on VMS a priority and to make them available to members. Excellence is our goal. According to California law, third board is responsible for the actions of VMS. I want to be part of the board, part of the team that guarantees VMS performs in the best interest of members.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, your 1 minute, please.
When elected, I wish to address the rising water costs by proposing long-term programs like switching to drip irrigation and controller upgrades. This is where we will save the greatest amount of money, along with changing the plant palette. We need to take advantage of the rebates offered to us from the water district to accomplish this. I want to further investigate why our water costs, which were over $2.3 million in 2015, are continually rising. The budget for this year was around $3 million, and that's $600,000 more, or more than 600, almost 7, than back in 2015. Our 2022 budget will be significantly higher. And we had our water budget growing at an average of more than $100,000 a year. and it's rising faster than our current savings plan. We need to be able to modify so we can at least keep up with inflation in these areas. It's the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Laws, your 1 minute, please.
Sure. During a recent discussion with other homeowners, one expressed his concern that new board members who are working to make the right decisions for our community are so often voted down by existing board members that they either resign from the board or decide to go along to get along and follow those existing board members. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that will not be me. I will not be stymied, nor will I resign or simply go along to get along. I will continue to speak up and represent all homeowners within our community. Also, while talking with fellow homeowners, they frequently mention alterations in landscaping as areas of concern. And of course, the recently announced $93 assessment increase has been a frequent topic of discussion. I look forward to working with the board and committees to address these issues, to find creative solutions to improve services and reduce costs. If you're looking for change, for transparency, for someone who's constantly working for all of us to maintain our existing services and amenities, while most importantly, not increasing our monthly assessments, then please vote for me, Mark Laws.
Thank you. Mr. Karimi, you have 1 minute.
Dear board members, Third Mutual is facing several major issues on the rising cost: insurance, utilities, and labor. All of those issues are going to have a long-term impact on our assessment. I would like to continue working on the insurance issue. I've been involved with it for a year and a half now, and we are working on different options. I would like the opportunity to continue working on that. I have several other projects that I would like to continue working on as far as the cost saving and efficiency improvement and productivity in order to keep the cost reasonable for the better services or best services that we can provide under the circumstances. I would like that opportunity to continue with those projects and bring those to the conclusion with the best of the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jarrett, your 1 minute, please.
I thank all of you who have worked with me on the board, especially on the committees and the staff, to make my experience serving on Third an enjoyable one. Sometimes we hit some bumps, fall down, and then just get back up and move on to the next issue that needs our attention. I have been a part of a team that I want to continue being on. I also want to thank all members of the community that have supported me and worked with me throughout the years. Your support has allowed me to help you as well. Although I've been a supporter for 12 years of the residents of the GVA, the 3-story buildings, I have been a supporter of needs for all residents in the community who reside in Third since becoming a Third board member. Thank you for voting me so that I can continue serving you in the areas of my expertise, education, and experience. Thank you.
And Mr. Cook, your final 1 minute, please.
Hello. First, I'd like to apologize for how tongue-tied I appeared at the first statement I gave. There's flashing green lights, flashing yellow lights, flashing red lights in front of us, and going first is always a chore. I think I can bring a great perspective and influence to the board if elected. Having been a contractor and had a hammer in my hand, I always referred to it as so often lower socioeconomic councils and that have had a hammer in their time at one time or another, as opposed to ones that haven't. And it adds a great perspective for making decisions such as variances, such as structures, such as improvements of property. I always think that service should be the priority to the members, and that should be our primary focus, that what is good for the members is good for the community.
Thank you. And folks, that concludes our candidates forum. I want to thank all 6 of the candidates for being here today and answering our questions. And I want to also tell everyone out there, please don't forget to vote. The deadline to return ballots to the Inspector of Elections is 11 a.m. September 30th if you're mailing the ballot. If you are hand-delivering the ballots to the Community Center ballot box, which is outside the front door of the building, the deadline is 5 p.m. September 30th. The tabulation of ballots will be live October 1st. We hope you've enjoyed this forum and learned much about each of our candidates. Thank you for coming, And that concludes our Meet the Candidate Forum. Good day.